everybody! Greetings, I am Tad Larkin, the Lore Master of Mandalore, and today I'll be digging through the archives to continue elaborating on the history of the galaxy. Where we last left off in this lecture series, we saw the conclusion of the Great Galactic Wars, the plunging of the galaxy into the Dragulch period, the New Sith Wars, and the brief collapse of the Galactic Republic. We also saw the ushering of the Ruusan Reformations, and with it, the inclusion of the Jedi Order in the Republic judicial branch, as well as the rise of Darth Bane and his rule of two, ending the Old Republic era. While the Ruusan Reformations effectively saved the Republic from fracturing, it did have some unintended negative side effects, such as more power being given to the Senate and inviting more corruption, greed, and stagnation, which affected voting on important issues. This also created a greater divide between the rich worlds in the galactic core and the poorer worlds in the Outer Rim territories, inviting lawlessness on the Rim while order was maintained in the core. And of course, the dismantling of the Republic's military placed more pressure on the Jedi Order and local planetary defense forces for keeping the peace in the face of local strife and interplanetary disputes. 10 years after the Battle of Ruusan, Darth Bane and Darth Zana were at risk of being discovered by the Jedi after having a run-in with several on Tython. So, they staged a duel on Ambria, using a patsy-failed Jedi whom they had captured. This allowed the Jedi to believe that the Sith had finally been wiped out for good. It is also at this time that the Valley of the Jedi, the monument to those who had fallen at the Battle of Ruusan, finished construction. In 980 BBY, Darth Bane was slain by his former apprentice, Darth Zana, and she claimed the title of the Dark Lord of the Sith, with Darth Cognis as her apprentice, beginning the lineage of Banite Sith Lords following the Rule of Two, to ensure that each generation of Sith is stronger than the last. By 900 BBY, the Outer Rim world of Eriadu was discovered and settled by wealthy families from Korlag, who turned the world into an industrial powerhouse. In 986 BBY, Yoda is born, and 96 years later, he would begin to train Jedi himself at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, before becoming Grand Master of the Order. 600 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Jedi Knight known as Alia was exiled to the wild terrestrial world of Dathomir in the Outer Rim, where she established herself as a mystic and enthralled the local populace descended from an ancient prison colony. Alia would go on to become the matriarch of the Dathomir witches we know today. In 490 BBY, the corporate sector is established in the Tingle Arm region of the Outer Rim territories, providing an autonomous authority to megacorporations looking to establish a free trade zone, not subject to the Republic's debilitating tariffs. A century and a half later, a Jedi training vessel, the Juanthor, crash-landed on Dathomir, and Yoda, along with a handful of other Jedi, went to Dathomir to investigate, and there discovered the Dathomir witches. In exchange for the captive Jedi trainees, Yoda gifted the witches Jedi artifacts, and promised that one day he would send a Jedi Knight to liberate them from the Night Sisters, a rival witch clan who used the dark side of the Force, or what they called dark magic. By 200 BBY, the warrior clans of the Mandalorians entered into a territorial dispute with the Itholians, and, true to the ancient Mandoade of old, they massacred the entire Itholian species. The Republic didn't respond. However, a group of rogue Jedi allied themselves with other bounty hunters to take out the ruling Mandalore. 33 years later, Darth Tenebrous inherited the title of Dark Lord of the Sith after slaying his master, and took on a wealthy Mune banker named Hago Damask as his apprentice, dubbing him Darth Plagueis. Around 130 BBY, the Jedi began to notice that their powers of meditation and perception were waning, as a general murkiness and uncertainty clouded their vision. They understood this as the dark side growing more powerful, yet no Sith Lord had shown themselves for centuries, and from this sprung the popularity of an old prophecy of a chosen one who would bring balance to the Force. In 124 BBY, the Galactic Senate passed legislation making the entire Outer Rim and portions of the Mid-Rim a free trade zone, which was heavily exploited by the relatively small Trade Federation, turning it into a galactic conglomerate. From 89 to 65 BBY, many prominent Jedi from the Republic Classical era begin their careers in the Jedi Order, such as Count Dooku, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Mace Windu, and Qui-Gon Jinn. Around 67 BBY, Darth Plagueis orchestrated the death of Darth Tenebrous on Bald Demnik, becoming the new Dark Lord of the Sith, and began grooming a young Naboo human from an affluent political family, after noticing his raw Force potential on a financial mission for his company, Damask Holdings. 2 years later, the young Palpatine would suffer a tremendous fit of rage, in which he unleashed his power upon his loathed father, Kosinga Palpatine, his mother, and his siblings, and Plagueis took him on as an apprentice, dubbing him Darth Sidious. Plagueis and Sidious began enacting their master plan, in which Sidious, in his guise as Palpatine, would climb the socio-political ladder to the highest echelons of Republic government, and bring about the destruction of the Jedi and said Republic from within, and they would co-rule a new Sith Empire in its aftermath. Together, they utilized their influence to perform many political favors and secure alliances, and with their help, various beings became the heads of the Trade Federation, Commerce Guild, Intergalactic Banking Clan, Corporate Alliance, and other conglomerates. Engineering the rise of these organizations, Plagueis and Sidious helped them gain representation in the Galactic Senate, causing further friction in the already tense socio-political climate. By 60 BBY, the Mandalorians had fallen far from the proud warrior civilization they once were, raiding neighboring worlds and marauding any shipping that came through the Mandalore sector. That was until Jaster Mareel became Mandalore and established the Super Commando Codex. The Super Commando Codex basically told the Mandalorians to get their act together and sell their services as elite mercenaries instead of raiding and piracy for fun. And Tor Vizsla, who rather liked raiding and piracy, founded a splinter group called the Mandalorian Death Watch, sparking the 16-year-long Mandalorian Civil War. While conducting numerous experiments on a Yinchori and a Bith named Darth Venemus that his former master trained when his confidence in Plagueis waned, Plagueis discovered and contacted the Kaminoans, whom he contracted to make clones for him to continue his midichlorian experiments. Plagueis noted that the Kaminoans could be useful in creating a clone army, ultimately capable of wiping out the Jedi when they least expect it after serving with them for years, but he would need the Jedi themselves to place the initial order for this army. In 52 BBY, Plagueis visited Sereno on a financial mission for Damask Holdings, and there he met with Jedi Masters Dooku and Sifo Dyas, who, after a long political discussion, and Dooku being unhappy with the current state of the galaxy anyways, he convinced of the Republic's need to rearm itself. Plagueis and Sidious continued to foster hostilities in the galaxy in the next decades to ensure that others see this as well, and it will eventually be brought up as an issue in the Galactic Senate. Meanwhile, Sidious, who had just ascended to Senator for Naboo, had previously discovered an Iridonian Zabrak child, teeming with raw Force potential, and he abducted him, and with Plagueis' permission, he trained him as a Sith assassin, at the same time training him in the ways of the true Sith behind his master's back, to eventually groom him for becoming his own apprentice. In 46 BBY, Rendili Stardrive took 200 of its iconic Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers and outfitted them with slave circuitry, which dramatically cut down crew requirements. This was all done as a proof of concept for a future Republic Navy, should the need ever arise for one. Officially dubbed the Katana Fleet, with the unofficial moniker the Dark Force, the fleet embarked on a galaxy-wide tour. However, at one port of call, several crew members picked up a nasty hive virus, which drove them all insane, and they proceeded to jump to random sets of coordinates where the ships remained hidden for 40 years. In 44 BBY, chaos came to the Outer Rim world of Troikan, when Ayako Stark hired pirates to raid shipments of Bacta and sell it at a more reasonable markup in the midst of a Bacta shortage, and the Republic intervened, culminating in the Stark hyperspace conflict. Senator Ranulph Tarkin, Plo Koon, Qui-Gon Jinn, and his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi led Republic judicial forces to victory on Troikan, bringing an end to the so-called Stark Commercial Combine. In 42 BBY, something truly spectacular happened, as Darth Plagueis, still obsessed with finding the secret to immortality, conducted an experiment along with Darth Sidious to create life from nothing but the Force. However, it seemed to have failed. Unintentionally, in an attempt for the Force to balance itself out from the dark side's raw power wielded by Plagueis and Sidious, Anakin Skywalker was conceived fatherless to Shmi Skywalker, a slave on Tatooine. As Darth Plagueis became more and more obsessed with finding the secret to both creating life and immortality, he locked himself in his palace on Sojourn, leaving Darth Sidious to carry on preparations for the Sith Master Plan. In 40 BBY, the Mandalorian Civil War came to a close, when, on Galadran, the true Mandalorians, now under Jango Fett since Jaster's passing at the Battle of Korta 6, were framed by the Death Watch for massacring political protesters, and a group of Jedi were called in, led by Master Dooku. Dooku gave Jango and the Mandalorians a chance to surrender. However, insisting their innocence, a battle ensued, and nearly all of the true Mandalorians, save for Jango, were slain by the Jedi, and Jango was sold into slavery, where he would later escape, kill Tor Vizsla, and become a bounty hunter. With Sidious taking the reins, the Republic was now as corrupt as ever, with senators supporting everything from slavery in the Outer Rim to taking unsolicited bribes from the Trade Federation. To enact his bidding, Sidious employed his Sith-tattooed Zabrak apprentice, Maul, to carry out and oversee many events that Sidious had manipulated into fruition. One such event was the Yinchori Uprising of 33 BBY, where the belligerent Yinchori, who were raiding neighboring worlds, killed the Jedi counselors sent to negotiate with them, and while several Jedi were dispatched to Yinchor to quell the uprising, Yoda valiantly defended the Jedi Temple on Coruscant from a direct Yinchori attack. The whole debacle ended up in a bloodbath, and Yinchor having to be blockaded, reflecting poorly on both the actions of the Jedi Council and the current Supreme Chancellor, Finis Falorum. With rampant piracy in the Outer Rim, courtesy of the Nebula Front pirates, it was only a matter of time before Trade Federation shipping was attacked, and in response, the Republic's Senate passed legislation allowing the Trade Federation, Corporate Alliance, Commerce Guild, Banking Clan, Techno-Union, and other conglomerates to arm themselves for security measures. The subject of reinstating the Republic's military was also brought up to better handle events such as the Stark hyperspace conflict and the Yinchori uprising. However, it was quickly shot down before a bill was even proposed, in favor for allowing individual planets to bolster their home defense fleets. To combat the growing wealth and influence of the Trade Federation, Sidious, as Palpatine, proposed to Valorum the taxation of the free trade zones that had made the Federation so wealthy, and soon after, the Eriadu Summit was called for both sides to voice their concerns. During the summit, however, Nebula Front assassins killed the leading members of the Trade Federation Directorate, conveniently leaving only Newt Gunray as the sole viceroy of the organization. Meanwhile, Plagueis escaped his lair on Sojourn, after it was orbitally bombarded by the Basadi Hutt clan, Black Sun, and the Bando Gora, working in conjunction with Ars Varuna, the current king of Naboo, who was retaliating for Damask's and Palpatine's backing of Padme Naburi for the next monarchical election. After learning that Damask survived, Varuna quickly abdicated to allow Padme Naburi, now Padme Amidala, to take the throne. Plagueis would pay Varuna a visit and exact his revenge soon after. In retaliation for Sojourn, on Raltyr, Sidious dispatched Maul to a meeting of the high-tier Black Sun Vigos, with the goal of killing them all, and although Alexi Garen and his Night Sister bodyguard put up a good fight, they ultimately succumbed to the Sith Lord, leaving the Black Sun in complete disarray from which it would not fully recover until the end of the Clone Wars. everything seemed to be going swimmingly for Sidious and Maul behind the scenes. That was until Hath Monchar of the Trade Federation decided to make off with sensitive information that could blow the whole Sith master plan. Maul was sent to kill Monchar and recover the data, and after catching up with and killing Monchar, Maul learned that the information had been passed off to at least 2 other beings. On Coruscant, the Zabrak pursued information broker Lorn Pavan and Jedi Padawan Darsha Asant, and after disposing of Asant in a duel, Maul managed to mortally wound Pavan. However, he would ironically go on to pass the data off to Senator Palpatine at a political event held on Coruscant. Though Sidious was disappointed with Maul, the situation seemingly resolved itself, and at that same political rally, Plagueis, once again in his guise as the Mune financier Hago Damask, was reunited with Sifo Dyas. Seeing the events of the past 2 decades leading closer and closer to an eventual split of the Republic, Sifo Dyas was convinced by Damask to seek the Kaminoan cloners and order a clone army for the Republic, to be used whenever the need for one arose, and, with funds furnished by Damask Holdings through intermediaries, he placed the initial order. In 32 BBY, after a unilateral vote, the Senate passed Senate Resolution BR-0371, which commenced the taxation of the trade routes in the Mid and Outer Rim, which made the Trade Federation completely irate. In protest, the Trade Federation blockaded Naboo, which prompted Valorum to send Jedi negotiators to reach a settlement, and the negotiations were short, as they tried to kill Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Jedi escaped to Naboo's surface on board droid landing craft, and after unintentionally befriending a clumsy Gungan, they made it to the capital city of Theed, where they rescued Amidala and her retinue and escaped aboard the Royal Starship. Unfortunately, while running the blockade, their ship's hyperdrive was severely damaged, so they limped at sublight speeds to the closest non-Trade Federation-controlled planet, Tatooine, where they hoped to acquire the parts they needed for repairs. On Tatooine, they found the parts they needed to repair the hyperdrive, and with the help from a local, immensely force-sensitive slave boy named Anakin Skywalker, who won the Boonta Eve Classic pod race wagered on by Jinn, they secured the parts they needed, and also Anakin's freedom, taking the boy, who Qui-Gon believed to be the prophesized Chosen One, back to Coruscant to hopefully start Jedi training. Back on Coruscant, Amidala pleaded for help. However, with the Trade Federation representatives denying her claims of suffering on Naboo, she called for a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum's administration, which was agreed upon by a majority, and a subsequent chancery election was held. While the nominated Senator Palpatine campaigned for his vote, the Queen and her entourage returned to Naboo to meet up with resistance movements to hopefully dislodge the Trade Federation invasion herself, and after forging an alliance with the Gungans, the Battle of Naboo had begun. As the Gungan Grand Army fought the bulk of battle droid forces in the plains outside Theed, Amidala and her team infiltrated the palace. However, they were stopped by Darth Maul, who engaged Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan while the others proceeded onward. Through a faulty autopilot in the N-1 starfighter he was hiding in, Anakin was sucked into the space battle, and with a lucky shot, the 9-year-old successfully destroyed the droid control ship, causing all droid units to shut down and the battle was won. Back on Coruscant, Sidious and Plagueis celebrated the election results in Damask's apartment. The two would now rule as Chancellor and Co-Chancellor. However, Sidious had other plans, as he spiked Plagueis' drink and killed him in his sleep. Sidious was now the sole Supreme Chancellor and Dark Lord of the Sith. However, his revelry was bittersweet, as he felt in the Force that Maul had been defeated. Yes, he killed Qui-Gon Jinn in that fateful duel in the Theed hangar. However, Kenobi bisected the Zabrak and watched as he fell down the reactor shaft. Sidious was in need of a new apprentice. In his many social outings with Hago Damask, Palpatine had met Jedi Master Dooku on several occasions. Now disillusioned with the Jedi Order and the Republic after Galadran, Yinchor, Naboo, and learning of his former Padawan's death, Dooku had left the Jedi Order, and it wasn't long before he fell sway to Darth Sidious. Convincing him to embrace the dark side as a force for change in the galaxy, Sidious dubbed Dooku Darth Tyrannus, and took him on as his Sith apprentice, and his first 2 tasks as a newly anointed Sith were to kill his friend, Master Sifo-Dyas, who placed the initial order for the clone army, and find a prime genetic template. Tyrannus then contacted some of the best-known bounty hunters and mercenaries in the galaxy, and offered a reward of 5 million credits for anyone who captured Kamari Vosa, his former Jedi apprentice and crazed leader of the Bando Gora. After tracking down leads on Uvu 4, Coruscant, Malastare, Tatooine, and fighting his former comrade-in-arms to the death, Jango Fett incapacitated Kamari Vosa on one of the moons of Bogden, and there, Dooku offered him not just his reward, but the opportunity to be a genetic template for the clone army. When told that this army would eventually be used in the downfall of the Jedi and thus getting his revenge for Galadran, Jango agreed, on the condition that he could keep one clone for himself, unaltered, as a son and protege. On Kamino, Jango and 100 of his hand-picked combat specialists, 75 of which were Mandalorian like himself, oversaw the training of what would become the Grand Army of the Republic for the next decade. Sidious wasn't the only one to gain a new apprentice, however. As Obi-Wan Kenobi was elevated to the rank of Jedi Knight, he was allowed to take on Anakin as his Padawan learner, following Qui-Gon's dying wish. Following the Battle of Naboo, the galaxy became an increasingly more dangerous place, and members of the Jedi Order had their hands full, what with a rogue Jedi on Tatooine, Sharad Het, a powerful bounty hunter, Aurra Sing, and some local trouble on Malastare. Meanwhile, the Night Sisters on Dathomir uncovered an ancient Qua Infinity Gate and had used it to atomize a nearby planet, and Jedi Quinlan Vos was sent to investigate where, after being taken captive as a slave by the Night Sisters, Vos eventually got the upper hand on them and destroyed the Infinity Gate, saving Coruscant in the process. When Anzadi assassins overran the prison planet of Kifex and took Aayla Secura prisoner, Quinlan Vos and his former master, Thulm, killed their leader and freed his Padawan learner, and after subsequent missions to Ryloth, Secura was elevated to the rank of Jedi Knight, and Vos, Jedi Master. In 29 BBY, Obi-Wan and Anakin traveled to Zonoma Seikat in the Outer Rim to investigate the disappearance of the Jedi Vergere. Once on Zonoma Seikat, they discovered that the planet was indeed almost sentient, with the ability to bond to its colonists as well as create organic starfighters. Zonoma Seikat revealed to them that Vergere had allowed herself to be taken by an alien race not of this galaxy, known as the Far Outsiders. Williff Tarkin, Lieutenant Governor of Eriadu, who had recently come into an alliance with Darth Sidious, had escorted the Jedi with a Trade Federation fleet, and after seeing the planet's capabilities for himself, he wanted to take the planet by force and weaponize it. His plans were foiled by Kenobi and Skywalker, who destroyed his flagship, giving Zonoma Seikat enough time to travel through hyperspace to a new location. Following the construction of his first lightsaber on Ilum, Anakin accompanied his master on numerous missions, making a friend in fellow Padawan Tru Veld and a rival in Ferrus Olin along the way. In 27 BBY, an ambitious project led by Jedi Master Joruus C'baoth finally received the funding it needed to get underway, and Outbound Flight embarked from Yaga Minor. 6 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers arrayed around a cylindrical core, Outbound Flight was designed to carry colonists through the unknown regions to a satellite galaxy to explore and establish a foothold. At the behest of Sidious, a Trade Federation fleet lay in wait in the unknown regions to ambush it. However, they encountered a fleet of Chiss expansionary forces, led by Commander Mithron Nuro Udo, or Thrawn for short, who destroyed all but one of their ships. After boarding and an interrogation, Thrawn was put into contact with Sidious himself, who told him that he must stop Outbound Flight for fear that it would prompt an earlier invasion by the Far Outsiders, and Thrawn, who encountered them before, agreed. Outbound Flight was subsequently destroyed and crash-landed on a small planetoid somewhere near the Chiss Redoubt, where it would not be rediscovered until 25 years after the Battle of Yavin. For the following year, Anakin and Obi-Wan, in between missions for the Jedi Council, were beginning to be threatened by an influential human named Granta Omega, son of Xanatos, a former Padawan of Qui-Gon Jinn, who went dark and was killed by he and Obi-Wan. Omega was out for revenge. On Mawan, they faced off in a duel, and Jedi Master Yaddle sacrificed herself to prevent Granta from poisoning the world. The Master Padawan duo would battle Omega several more times on Coruscant and finally at Korriban, where he met his demise in 23 BBY. In 24 BBY, as part of Sidious's master plan, Tyrannus, in his public persona of Count Dooku of Sereno, made a rousing speech on the junk world of Roxas Prime, denouncing the Republic's corruption, and there he proclaimed a new Confederacy of Independent Systems. The Confederacy of Independent Systems, or CIS for short, grew to over 6,000 member systems during the next 2 years, as many seceded from the Republic with promises of more planetary autonomy and a stronger economy. With worlds seceding left and right, and megacorporations with large droid armies threatening to join the CIS, the Military Creation Act was proposed in the Galactic Senate, and remained a hot-button issue for some time. Padme Amidala, who since stepped down from her royal duties and now served as Naboo's senator, was the greatest opponent to this legislation, so much so that an attempt was made on her life on Coruscant. In an effort to find her would-be assassin, Obi-Wan Kenobi tracked his suspect to Kamino, where he discovered for the first time the clone army that was built for the Republic. Meanwhile, his apprentice accompanied Senator Amidala to Naboo, and then Tatooine, where he found his mother dead, and slaughtered a whole village of Tusken Raiders in a fit of rage. After a confrontation with the Mandalorian bounty hunter, Kenobi pursued Jango Fett to Geonosis, where he witnessed the signing of a pact between the Trade Federation, Corporate Alliance, Techno-Union, and Commerce Guild to join the CIS, and this, along with documentation of their droid foundry, was sent to the Jedi Council and the Supreme Chancellor. Gaining emergency powers amidst this crisis, Palpatine passed the Military Creation Act, and soon the Jedi Order and almost 200,000 clone troopers descended upon Geonosis in a surprise attack, which resulted in a CIS rout, the droid foundries being destroyed, and Dooku escaping, after besting Kenobi, Skywalker, and almost Yoda in a lightsaber duel. The Clone Wars were now in full swing, and as the Republic scrambled to quickly organize Jedi leadership for their new army, the CIS hastily fortified strategic worlds and launched multiple offensives, one led by the Chiss Dark Jedi Severance Tan, and another led by Dooku, seeking the parts to reconstruct the ancient Dark Reaper superweapon, used by Ulic Qel-Droma during the Great Sith War. Battlefronts opened up on the Mid-Rim, Expansion Region, and the Outer Rim, as the galaxy was soon ablaze in the tides of war it had not seen for millennia, and for many planets, the scars of this war would still be prevalent long after its conclusion. The Supreme Commander of the CIS droid army, the Kaleesh cyborg General Grievous, proved to be the Republic's greatest strategic adversary when, during the second year of the war, he and a fleet carved a path of destruction up the Corellian trade spine and conquered, sacked, and massacred the populations of many worlds in the once safe core region. As the Republic continued to suffer major defeats, Palpatine used his executive powers to slowly strip away the rights of galactic citizens in the name of security, passing the controversial Enhanced Security and Enforcement Act and establishing a system of regional governors, which bypassed senators and representatives to help oversee military operations, of course appointed directly by him. With a fresh batch of clone troops for both Kamino and a secret facility on Centax II, and bolstered by new classes of warships, the Republic managed to reclaim many worlds in the core, colonies, expansion region, and mid-rim, effectively isolating the CIS in the Outer Rim, thus beginning the Outer Rim sieges. Grievous, however, had one extra trick up his sleeve, and using secret routes leading through the deep core, he attacked Coruscant and kidnapped the Chancellor, only to be stopped by Obi-Wan and Anakin, who not only rescued Palpatine, but also killed Count Dooku before the General's escape, leaving Grievous to hold the CIS together. Skywalker, now a Jedi Knight, had developed a long-lasting friendship with the Chancellor, and grew ever closer to him in the midst of perceived injustices done upon him by the Jedi Council, and, in fear for the life of his secretly pregnant wife, Padme, he grew more and more desperate. Palpatine eventually revealed himself as Darth Sidious to Anakin, and after being found out by the rest of the Jedi Council, Anakin saved his life from Jedi Master Mace Windu, and surrendered himself to Sidious's teachings so that he could save Padme. Sidious, in turn, anointed him as his new apprentice, Darth Vader. With Grievous slain by Kenobi on Utapau, and Jedi Masters, Knights, and Padawans spread in diaspora across battlefields all over the Outer Rim, Sidious enacted Contingency Order 66, part of the earlier passed Enhanced Security Act, and relayed the order to all active clone commanders. Bred, conditioned, and genetically disposed to follow orders to a T, clone troopers across the galaxy turned on their Jedi generals when they least expected it. Darth Vader, meanwhile, took a contingent of the 501st Legion and marched on the Jedi Temple, where he slaughtered the remaining Masters, Knights, Padawans, and even the younglings. The Second Great Jedi Purge had begun. The war effectively over, Palpatine refused to give up his emergency powers and declared himself Emperor at the head of a new galactic empire that the Republic would be reorganized from, ending 25,000 years of democracy in a speech to the Senate Rotunda. On a mission to Mustafar to wipe out the remaining CIS leaders gathered there, Vader was intercepted by his wife and former master, and critically wounded Padme. The ensuing lightsaber duel with Obi-Wan cost him his arm, both his legs, and his humanity as he was badly burnt by Mustafar's searing lava. Kenobi left Anakin for dead and took Padme to Polis Massa, where she gave birth to Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa before passing away. The twins would be separated, Luke raised by Anakin's stepbrother on Tatooine, and Leia raised by Bail and Queen Breha Organa on Alderaan. Vader, meanwhile, was recovered by Sidious and taken back to Coruscant, where he was cybernetically augmented into the fierce Sith Lord we conjure images of when thinking about Darth Vader today. This ends my findings on the rise of the Empire. Stay tuned for the next transmission of this lecture series, where the dark times will be discussed. Special thanks to my patrons, Wildcat144, The Grand Pope, Zexend, JTribs1997, David Miller, AJ Can't Think of a Good Pun Right Now, Dave the Grave, Hugo Novotny, Sim the Despot, Matt Patton, Trav, and SW Archivist. If you'd like to support this channel, please visit my Patreon to find out how. Link is in the description. In the meantime, keep your comm channels open for future transmissions, and don't forget to subscribe. Tad Larkin, out.